Oh, hi. Hello, Amaka. How are you doing today?
I'm fine, Mav. Good evening. How have your day been?
Very fine, thank you. A lot of work here and there. So I can see we have some people in the audience already. Guys, good evening. Go ahead and drop a message in the chat. Drop a message in the comments. Just tell us your name and where you are joining from. All right. Um, Tell us your name and where you're joining from so that we can get to know ourselves at least. All right. We're going to be discussing. Okay, I think I'm still seeing. Okay, Amaka, we're just streaming to YouTube only. Okay, okay, all right.
Yeah,
So
just
we're going
YouTube.
to, yeah, so we're going to be discussing. Yes, the thing is, we've actually received like lots and lots of questions. I get a lot of these questions myself, right? Every single day. I like to get into tech, but I don't want to code. I mean, I don't think I can. I don't think I can code. That's what I hear most of the times. Although I usually tell them that's probably not the right thing to say, but I think I get the point, right? So they say I don't think I can code. I don't think I can do those technical bits, right? um, I want a role in tech that does not require me to code. And most times they also say things like, I don't like maths. Okay. So I think, yeah. What do you have to say about that, Amaka?
Yeah, I think it's a general thing. Like, talk about coding, the first thing that comes to mind is the math aspect. And considering the fact that I feel a lot of people are scared of maths, they are not interested. Anything that is math is more like, please, please, please spare me that. And everyone is another thing is they're looking at it's hard. Everyone comes to this attitude of tech is hard, tech is hard. Then you now have the fact that we have people talk about coding most times and they feel like coding, maths, I beg it's hard, I don't want it. So it's one thing people come with as well. So I totally relate, Mav.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I mean, in reality, when you mention tech, everybody is always like, these guys are referring to coding. But there are so many other roles in tech that does not require you to even write code. Okay, so many roles, and we're going to look at a couple of them. Right, I have 15 of them here. Although you can even get more than these numbers. Right, I mean the list keeps on going. Recently, there are some roles that. I see a lot of people trying to get into. You hear things like prompting, right? Prompt engineering. They don't need to write code, but then they communicate with. They learn to work with AI tools. So I mean that is fairly new. We have a bunch of others, and we're going to dive into some of them. Please drop a message in the chat. I can see. Hi, Anita. I can see. I can see you there. So we have others. I want to see those names in the chat. So just introduce yourself. You can just tell us where you're joining from, right? Lagos, Nigeria. You know, just yeah, tell us where you're joining from. I'm going to share my screen so that we can just dive into this real quick. Okay. So Amaka, just give me a second to share my screen. This is taking a
Sure.
while. I don't know why. Let's see. Um, okay, so I'm actually trying to export. Oh boy, it's quite slow. Like my network is a bit terrible. But yeah, let's just proceed. Let me share this tab instead. I was trying to export and present, but I don't think that is working well for me. So I'm going to share my screen so that we can just dive into this real quick. Hello, Amaka. Can you still hear me? I realized the issue was
Yeah.
from my network, so I just switched to a different
Oh,
provider. Can you
okay.
hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Um, Hello, Amaka.
can hear you, Marv. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Okay.
Right.
All right. I'm sharing my screen. I want to confirm if you can see it.
Oh yeah, we can see it now.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So let me just let's go ahead and explore some of these options here. So yeah, let's take a look at the first one. I'm just going to jump into like listing out some of these roles. So if you have friends, people that are looking at getting into tech, I'm going to mention some of these roles, give you some I'll give you some scenarios, right? If you eventually get into one of these roles, what you would find yourself doing, right? It's not always about the definition, but most people want to really understand what is my day-to-day operation like, what is expected of me, right? So yeah, let's dive into it. The first one here, product management. I think most of you might have heard of this term before. Most times, this is always confused for project management, right? But basically, a product manager, is someone that is going to sit, in a very, vital position when it comes to managing the life cycle of a project, right? And of a product, okay? So when I say the life cycle, I'm referring to um, someone brings a product idea to your organization. For example, we say, okay, we have this set of customers, right? Maybe existing customers, and we figured out that our customers need a solution that can do ABC, right? So now we need to build that solution to be able to render that service to our customer. Now that solution, of course, which is a product, we need to have developers, analysts, business analysts, and a lot of stakeholders, work together to achieve the development of this project, right, or this product. Okay, and if you don't have a product manager, yes, you can decide to say this is something we can do without a product manager. Before you figure out what is happening, you then realize that the entire product is just everywhere. No, there's nobody organizing the moving parts, right? Developers are busy doing their own thing. The business analyst or the engineering, some of the other engineering team members like the data analysts, they're just busy doing things here and there, and it's not really related to the goal, right, to the vision of that product. Okay, so having a product manager is someone that would eventually come to the team and set that that goal, plan the project, and of course optimize the processes that would lead to building that project or product successfully. Okay, so if you notice when I'm talking about product management, sometimes you hear me talk about projects because yes, product managers definitely work on projects, right? Now some of these projects, if not all, are actually referred, or I would say they actually fall under a certain product. Okay, so as a product manager you would find yourself doing things like maybe working on optimizing a certain feature in a product, and when you're doing that, you are building, you are basically managing that particular project. It is regarded as a project. Do you understand? Now, we call it product management in tech because what you are working on has to be a product. It can be an API product, it can be a software product, it can be even a hardware product, right? A hardware device, built by some tech companies or some tech business, right? So you can actually be a product manager working for such organization. Now we have different types of product managers. We have product managers that that are technical. So I won't be able to break them down on this call, but yes, if you say you want to go into the parts where you work on, the technical bits of managing the products, right? We have technical product managers. Okay, and we also have product managers that you manage the product end to end, but you're not really involved in the technical bits. Okay, with the engineers, right? Which is also fine. You just have a different, a different thing to look out for. You are probably not building something very technical. Maybe you're building something that will be used or consumed by the end users, but it doesn't require any IT knowledge whatsoever to manage or to use that product, right? So it depends on where you find yourself, but at the end of the day, working as a product manager gives you the opportunity to plan, to structure, to communicate with several stakeholders, understand the product, and of course, set the direction of the product alongside the executive team or the managers that you eventually get to work with. Okay, so it's a very wonderful role, and of course, I'm sure some of you might have seen people in this role, right? So if you're interested in getting into this role, yes, I would recommend this role for people who are getting into tech and they're looking out for roles where they get to you know direct and manage or plan the overall goal of projects. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to the next. I think that was a lot, but if you have questions, unfortunately I am not seeing the chats. Okay, I think I'm looking at the chat right now. That's Anita, PM for the win. All right, so if you're interested in getting into that role, it's an awesome one. Amaka, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add to it is that I think for people who come into product management, it's more about people who like making sure that everything is in place. They want to see that you get from start to finish. So I think it's a win-win at the end of the day. If you choose to come into product management, it's more like aligning your passions with the tech skill. So I think, yeah,
Yeah,
that's that.
that's correct. Absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, right? This is a cybersecurity analyst. Okay, so yeah, I mean, this is the first thing I get to think about right now when I present this screen is I remember having a conversation with someone who told me, yes, I love hacking, right? Although this person could not hack, he just loved that scene, he loves to see people doing all those kind of stuff. But at the same time, he wants a role that he can sit in the position to actually block, this kind of attacks, from black hat, hackers, right? So you like that scene where you want to be able to be in that space to see the whole thing moving around, people trying to attack systems, some other department or set of individuals trying to block those attacks. If you happen to be a cyber security analyst, what you basically do is protect organizations or companies, the people you work with, from cyber threats, right? So you're protecting them from cyber threats, which means attackers trying to get into their system. You are able to analyze the networks, analyze the system, understand the potential ways that attackers could get in, right? And block those access. Okay, so you are in the position to monitor possible security breaches, right? And of course implement those fixes, or probably take those old or legacy systems out and replace them with something more secure. Okay, so yes, this is an interesting role. Although you are not going to find yourself coding, but you're going to find yourself, doing a lot of analysis, right? Asking questions, and of course inspecting networks or inspecting systems. Now the fact is, some of these things you will learn them while you're on the job, because different organizations will use different strategies, network strategies, cloud strategies, you know and you don't just expect to say, I have learned how to do this in an organization or a boot camp, and this is the same. I'm still going to see the same thing everywhere. It's not very practical. So yes, you will learn the fundamentals. You will learn about computer networks. You will learn about you might be introduced to some fundamental coding, right? Now I'm saying you might be, because it's not 100% compulsory. It depends on where you find yourself. Ideally, you would have engineers assigned to you, right? If it's a very large company, you have nothing to be bothered about. You're not going to be writing code, but yeah, most times, it's also a great idea that you learn a little bit of coding, right? Although it is not compulsory. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Your job is to protect the organization from potential cyber threats, right? And you'll be doing things like risk assessment. You'll be monitoring security breaches, and of course implementing those protective measures to ensure that your organization is safe from attacks, right? So I hope that makes sense, and I'll be moving on to the next one. But I want to take any questions. So if you have any questions, drop it in the chat so I can take that real quick. Okay. All right.
Mav,
Yeah, go on.
Okay, I think I'm sorry to interrupt you. I wanted to say now that you have talked about cyber security analyst, please it's safe to like say that cyber security analyst is different from ethical hacking
Yeah, yeah,
because
okay.
them
It
them
is.
together.
Okay, let me put it this way. So the thing is, you get to learn hacking a bit, right? You get to understand hacking. So I think it's better to use the word understand and not learn, right? You get to understand hacking. Most ethical hackers will eventually become, cybersecurity analysts because they know some of these things, right? Um, Yes, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, so most ethical hackers would, get to be cybersecurity analysts. I don't think a company would employ you to be because you call yourself a white hat hacker, right? Yes, they might employ you because you can do those things, but the title or the role would be under cybersecurity because you are not employed to hack people; you are employed to protect. Okay, so yes, Amaka, it is not, but people in that domain would eventually find themselves doing, cybersecurity jobs. It can be analyst, it can be engineer, you can be a cybersecurity engineer, right? So yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
All right, all right. So let's move on to the next. Yeah, and I want to see some questions because I expect, people who are listening and they love a particular role. Maybe you have questions like, who should be able to do this job? What are the traits that I should have before knowing that this should be, the kind of job I should do, right? Stuff like that. So if you have those kind of questions, feel free to drop it in the chat, and we can always go back, right? We can always go back and take some of those things before we proceed. Okay. But for now, let's just jump into data analysts, right? Okay, and if you notice one pattern here, one thing I want you to observe is, the analyst term here, right? So, as I mentioned earlier, we also have cybersecurity engineers, we also have data engineers, right? But now we're focusing on the analyst, bit of, this space because if we're talking about the engineers, then yes, you must do some coding. I mean, that's compulsory, right? But for someone in the field of analyzing data, extracting vital information from data, primarily for the purpose of driving business decisions, what you find yourself using in this space is mostly tools, right? I usually organize sessions. I call that session tooling session, right? So you get to learn about tools and the possibilities of working with those tools to extract vital information from data. So maybe you have heard of a tool like Tableau. You have heard of a tool like Power BI, right? So if you're working in this space, that is the kind. Those are the kind of tools you'll find yourself using, right? You're given maybe like a very large spreadsheet or a database, and what you have to do is use some of these tools to extract vital information, right, from those from that collection of data, and try to look for patterns, right? So I'll give a very practical example. You're working as a data analyst in an organization in a large retail chain, like a very large retail store, right? And this store probably has like let's assume this organization, right, has four stores in different locations, okay, and they are doing like millions of naira or billions of naira in transactions monthly. Then you are employed and you are asked, okay, study our data and tell us how we can improve sales, right? And then you as an analyst, you go into you extract vital information from this set of data, looking at the different locations. You begin to figure out patterns, right? You're basically tracking, or you're basically trying to look for patterns. So you begin to figure out patterns that says maybe every February, right? Every February, we get a lot of sales around this kind of items because of the kind of events, right? Valentine events and some other kind of maybe some kind of events taking place in that month. And now you have figured out that okay, these are the set of items that are sold more during this period. Okay. Based on that pattern, you have also realized that, okay, maybe in the past year, the sales actually dropped. right? In February due to a certain reason. There should be a reason, okay? Based on the data you have extracted. Due to this reason, sales dropped. So maybe what we can do is we can put like a discount, right? And that discount we can say if you purchase 2 items or 3 items, you get one free. Those kind of stuff. Now you're in the position to extract those vital data and then sit down with the business teams or your managers, right? The management team, and come up with those decisions as to how to better the sales for the next year or for the next quarter, stuff like that. So it's a very wonderful role. I have a friend in France, right, who studied data analysis. I think that was what she studied for a master's degree, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I really enjoy having conversations with her because she's able to dive into, if I bring up a business idea, she's able to dissect that business idea, ask questions, try to look at, the past data, maybe from different websites, and tell me if it's a viable idea, right, in a specific region or country or not, right? So, I mean, you make a lot of amazing decisions with data, and this makes you very valuable in an organization. So, yes, Amaka, do you have anything to add to that before we move on? Let me check the chat for questions.
Yeah, you have said a lot about it, and I think people who fit into data analysis, let me just do a wrap here. There are people who are like, they like interpreting trends, they like to predict, and somehow, since they already like the prediction, looking through data comes easy to them. So if you like seeing charts, because it's more about you going through charts, different color codes to understand why this is going that way, and you now have to predict at the end of the day. So if it's something you like doing, sure, why not? I think it's data analysis a thing, as long as you're not scared of numbers and going through trends. Because I know there are people that like looking at numbers, and like Marv said, he has a friend who is in there. I think I've met just a couple of them, but it's amazing though. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
it. Thank you, Marv.
All right. Okay. So I see someone dropped someone dropped a message in the chat. So the first one was where is that place? Okay, is data analyst and data science the same? No, they are not the same, right? They're not the same. So data analyst, you're focused on extracting information, from data and making decisions, right? Just working with business teams to make those decisions. It's mostly around business decisions, okay? And you also create reports, charts, and all those stuff, right? To showcase those executive teams or business teams, make them see the trends, make them understand what they could do to improve processes, right? Business when it comes to those business decisions. Okay, so what can we do to improve sales? What can we do to improve? What can we do to improve customer acquisition? Stuff like that. And then for the data science bit, those guys are more of people creating or coming up with using models, right, to do things like training. You're using your data to train a model that would be able to do things like prediction. So data science is more about it's around machine learning, right? It's more about doing creating models and working with machine learning algorithms, right? Or even creating machine learning algorithms. Okay, creating patterns and trying to build models that can help improve your business processes, right? So someone said, "How do I get to learn how to be an analyst?" Okay, so maybe we will, we'll respond to that towards the end of the presentation. Amaka, please remind me. So Anita is asking, what are the basic knowledge of a cyber security analyst? Okay, and can you get a direct job? Of course, you can get a direct job. There's so many open roles out there, right? For data for cybersecurity analysts. There are so many open roles out there. Now, your first question. Okay, your first question says, "What are the basic knowledge?" I think am I making a mistake here? Give me a minute. Let me see. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Okay. Um, yeah, I was having issues viewing the charts. I'm trying to look at the question you asked again. What's okay? Okay, with the basic knowledge of cybersecurity analyst, can you get a direct job? Okay, I knew it. I probably read that wrong. I thought maybe what I saw there was what are the basic knowledge that you need, right, to be a cybersecurity analyst. So yes, with the basic knowledge, you can get a direct job. Now it also depends what you mean by direct job, right? Most startups, for example, most local startups. When I mean local startups, I mean startups in Nigeria. They might not need the service of a cybersecurity analyst from the get-go, but then bigger organizations, right? Bigger companies. If you're in Nigeria, we're looking at companies like Flutterwave, for example, right? Maybe banks, okay. Big organizations. Big organizations that actually have maybe people that are running their own servers, right? People that are managing their own servers, on-prem servers, um, or people that have some hybrid, cloud patterns where they have on-prem and some other services in the cloud. Yes, companies that can be, attacked when it comes to, especially in the financial space, right? You can get jobs. You can get jobs in those kind of organizations. Yeah, because yes, they are trying their best to see how they protect themselves from all these attacks, right? Instead of trying to fight the attacks every single time when it comes, they want to implement that that preventive measure, right? So yes, you can actually get jobs with the basic knowledge. Then as you keep learning, as you keep growing, you'll definitely find even more advanced roles over time. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And yeah, I hope that makes sense. And of course, when I say the basic knowledge, some of those basic knowledge will involve things like understanding security tools, right? I told you it's more about toolings, understanding security tools, on being familiar with tools that yeah, tools you can use for scanning for vulnerability, right? We have so many of them. Okay, so you use them for scanning for potential vulnerability. You need to also learn important forensic analysis tools. You need to understand the threat landscape. So you should be up to date. You should subscribe to websites and blogs where they talk about the recent threats or the recent viruses, and how to protect yourself from those kind of attacks, right? Because we're always seeing these things, new things every day. So you need to be up to date, right? You need to understand security concepts, okay? Things like cryptography, understanding how to encrypt things or decrypt things, okay? Authentication, authorization, access control. You know, um, you don't need to code, and you don't need to code in any of these things I just mentioned. Understanding it, understanding how it works down to the core. So if someone is talking about access control, they say we want to implement the highest level, the highest possible level of access control that we can based on the resources we have. You should be able to think of really nice ways to keep your organization protected from these threats, right? You should understand operating systems very well, Windows, Linux, right? You should be very good at using some of these things, because you need to know what the attackers can do, right? You need to know the potentials of the attackers. You need to understand the potentials of the tools they use. You need to know how to also use those tools, right? So that by the time you're implementing, these security measures, you would be able to capture different points, right? So yeah, I hope that makes sense. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so the next one we have also covered data analyst. The next one we have here is user experience design. I'm sure Amaka was wondering, where is UX, or where is user interface design? Okay, so I think I even skipped that. So this was meant to contain both UI and UX design, right? Yes, you don't write code, okay? Whether you are designing interfaces or you're focusing on the user experience, you don't write code. Basically, what you do is we focus on creating that engaging digital experience for the users, right? So you'll be conducting user research, you'll be creating wireframes, you'll be optimizing the user journey, right? So let me try to break this down for those of you that might need more detail. If you have an eye for design, or you enjoy designing, yes, user interface slash user experience design might be for you. But if you talk about just user experience itself, um, your major focus. So let's look at an app like WhatsApp, right? Most of you use WhatsApp. Probably everybody on this call, I guess, might be using WhatsApp. And if you're using WhatsApp, that experience from creating a new profile, where you put your phone number, you activate your account, you get to connect to your friends, people that you've saved their phone numbers. You can see those contacts, you can chat them up. You know, when you receive a call, you can easily pick the call, right? You see, what you're seeing there is, there is a group of people, right, that have sat down to design that experience, right? So they design experience based on what the users would want to do. So the user wants to make a call. How should the user make the call, right? Pick up your phone, open the WhatsApp app, right? You have your button, or the tab right there at the top. You click on that. You see probably the previous calls, or you can simply click on a chat, right? A user or a profile, right? Click on that particular person's profile, and you have the option to just click, and you simply make a voice call. It gives you options, voice or video call. So you see that experience, right? The user experience designers, they are known as UX designers or the UX consultants or UX specialists, right? It is their job to design that journey. It is their job to come up with wireframes for that interface, right? Because they understand, they've interacted with the users, they've had several sessions with the users, they've engaged the users, and they understand what the user wants, and they are able to transform that into a product design, basically. Okay. So yes, that is what you do as a user experience designer. Okay. um
Yeah.
yeah, so as I said, Amaka, please, yes, I know you have something to say. Go ahead, please.
All right. I think I would also add this. Now don't really quote me, but I would say for user experience designers, it's more or less you looking for the fastest way to get a step done. It means that you're someone who wants a seamless process, because there are times that certain processes are annoying and you don't like that. So you're just very certain that, okay, I want this to be as seamless as possible. I don't want to waste time here. I want my users to open this site, see what they want, and get done with what they want, not that you start creating unnecessary distractions for these users. And like I tell some people, UX designers or UX designers can be termed lazy people. Lazy people in the sense that they are looking for the shortest cut to get something done, and at the same time, in the process of using the shortest method to get this done, they are achieving a seamless process. In all sense, they are not lazy, but we tend to find that people who take the shortest cuts want something to be very fast for them are classified as lazy, but they are smart people anyway.
I,
So
I,
let me
I think
stop
I,
there.
I think it's just a way that I think I would just consider that as a generalization from some people, right? Although I understand, where that came from when they say this set of people are lazy, this ones are. Well, yeah, I think it's good if you have people that are trying to optimize the process just to make things easier for other people. If you call them lazy, I don't think I have a problem with that. They might be lazy. They might be lazy when it comes to uh, not wanting to be stressed, right, with unnecessary processes. So yes, that would make sense. Okay. There's nothing wrong with being lazy, in a particular area, especially when you don't like it. So if you don't like wasting time,
Especially when it solves your problem.
yeah, especially when it solves your problem. If you are lazy and being lazy solves your problem, then I think that's yeah, I think I
That's
understand
a
that.
win-win.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. So let's move on to the next one. The next one we have here, that would be technical writing. Okay. So yeah, let's talk about technical writing. So if you have read maybe some blogs on websites, on some websites, maybe you have a company that is building a product, right? A product that has to do with that has to be used by developers, for example, right? Or it has to be used by you know people that will be interfacing with that product, right? And yeah, maybe this is something that is a bit technical. Then you can fall under this category of saying I want to be able to write materials that the users, of course, the users here can be developers, it can be architects, whatever, right? I want to be able to write materials that would guide them because I understand that particular tool, or I understand that particular technology, or because I am an expert, I have learned about this technology and I'm very good at it, so I want to write about it. Okay, and then yeah, you can write for organizations, you can write for companies. Sometime last year, I was writing for Redis. So if you have heard of Redis, Redis is this company that they have. So basically, Redis is a database company. That's the best way to describe them. Okay. Initially, they started off as a cache, but then they were able to build several toolings or technologies around their product, and it became a full blown database. Okay. So I was writing for them. I mean, it's a lucrative job. You can be paid up to $200, $300 per article, right? I remember I was earning up to $250 for every article I write. So it's a good one, right? You can spend a couple of hours writing an article, and you can get a lot of jobs. I mean, we have a lot of companies launching products, technical, solutions. And if you're able to write for these, organizations, you're able to write for these companies. Your writings, or the things you write basically would help, the people that are going to use this particular product or this particular solution. So when they read through, they are able to, get their problem solved, right? Um, yeah, so that is it. If you want to get into this role, then yes, first of all, you should be someone that enjoy writing. You should be someone that take vital corrections and try to improve when it comes to writing. You should be someone that also understand the thing you're writing about. Don't just jump in there because you feel you can write, and you can just make things up. Okay, so don't do that. You should know what you're writing about. You should write in a clear and concise manner, and yeah, you should be able to also communicate the details, right? And of course respond to comments when they come in. Okay, so this is another role you can look into if you enjoy some of those things I mentioned. Let's look at the chart. So someone said good programmers are lazy programmers. I mean, I don't think so.
Yeah,
uh, I
I
don't
don't
think
think
so.
so.
I understand. I see. So the thing is, I do understand, where that rationale come from, but it doesn't always, work that way. Trust me. So yes, you can say good programmers are lazy programmers because they are trying to, do things so that it will be easier for them, and they would always want to optimize so that they don't have to do. Yeah, I mean, there are so many things you would want to say, but in the end, um, most of the guys building some of the big solutions out there, you have to be hardworking, you have to be really good at you know you really have to work, put in the work. Okay, so I don't think I would agree with that 100%. Let's move on to the next one. So that is it for technical writing. Let's move on to the next one. The next bit here: quality assurance testing. I work with most of these guys, in the bank, right? QA testers. It's a wonderful role. You have products implemented, you have solutions that are completed. You are about to roll out to the users, but you still want another layer of testing, right? So now these guys come in different areas. It's not just at different levels of the product development, cycle. They won't just come in after the developers have done everything. They can come in even before then, right? But their major role comes in after you have a product, a working product, right? That you are about to roll out. Okay. So developers and their team have done their own testing, right? When it gets to the QA testers, which are the quality assurance testers, they have to test and ensure that that application meets the quality standards that the company wants to see, right? That the users are expecting. Okay, so they perform this testing, try to identify potential bugs if there is one, right? And they of course, collaborate with developers to make sure that those bugs are fixed or those issues are resolved. I remember the first time a QA tester actually looked at I think this was like 2019, 2018, right? I've been working with several companies even before then, but most of these companies did not, have QA testers internally, right? But then I worked on this product, and I was asked to I remember back then Lagos, Alausa, Lagos. So I came to submit, that product. It was a hospital product. So I sat down there and I was expecting a QA tester who just arrived. It was a friend to my boss back then. He just arrived in Nigeria, and he was meant to meet up with me there. So at Alausa. So I met with this particular guy that day, and he picked up the app and was just scrolling through. He kept repeating a particular action that was so weird, right? When you scroll down, the Android material design pattern, right? When you scroll down, it would refresh the app. Okay, so that was a default thing, and I worked with that a lot. But this guy kept scrolling down and scrolling back up at the same time. Imagine scrolling down, going back up at the same. You're not scrolling down on a list view or something, right? You just drag it down so that you can refresh. It will refresh, it will make a network call and fetch the data, right? And he kept doing it repeatedly, up, down, and before you know it, the application crashed. And he did that again like 3 times, and every single time the application kept crashing because I did not implement a guard to say that if there's an error, let's just catch that error and destroy that error, because yeah, network errors, of course. So I allowed a third-party service, something I was calling from a different server, to crash my own application. Now my application was working, but unfortunately it was not protected against the potential error that would come from calling a separate service, right? And that was what the guy was testing. Now, because of that, I understood what he did. And whenever I work on mobile applications, I make sure I do that testing first, even before I submit. Because obviously, it is something they've noticed that so many mobile developers don't check. And that was why they were able to, he was able to just do it. And, my application just kept crashing. So, yeah, I mean, when you work with these guys, you learn a lot because they have a lot of experience, using different applications, and they know what to test for, because they know where developers also make mistakes, and they know where developers try to avoid, or they know what developers probably did not even touch, right? Or pay attention to. So yeah, quality assurance testing, very wonderful role. You get paid very well as well. Of course, just like the others, but at least I can say um, quality assurance, testers are, well paid, right? Very, very good pay. All right, let's move on to the next. Amaka, do you have anything to add to this? Think we have.
No,
I'm
I
trying to
don't.
watch the. Okay, okay. I'm trying to watch the time here because yeah, the examples might make sense, but I don't want to take too much of our time. Digital marketing. All right, an interesting one. Yes, I'm going to allow Amaka to also speak to this, but let me just set that basis. Okay, so you are running a business, you are running a company, and you need someone to be able to market or promote your product or your service, but this time not physical, not like one-to-one promotion. You're not doing word of mouth here. For example, you are basically trying to promote uh, to the internet, right? To people on Facebook, people on you know people on Twitter, or people you're trying to promote to an audience via mail, okay, via email, right? There's so many ways. So when you say digital marketing, it's a form of marketing that is carried out in a digital fashion, in a digital manner. So you're basically trying to promote to people that are going to see that promotion, probably on their phone or their laptops, or their smart TVs and all that. So it has a bunch of children. When I say children, I mean a bunch of areas that you can choose to specialize in, right? You will hear things like social media marketing, email marketing, right? You can focus on one of these areas. You can learn a lot. You can learn across different areas. But at the end of the day, the parent category is what is called digital marketing. So from what we have here, digital marketers utilize online platforms to promote products and engage with audiences, right? They specialize in social media marketing, just like the example I gave earlier, content creation or content marketing, right? And campaign analysis, and of course much more, right? They have different areas you can actually specialize in, and it's a wonderful role because if you're able to touch multiple areas, and of course you can get gigs or jobs, that actually fall under one of these areas. Amaka, I think you might want to add to this.
Yeah, I think another thing to note is that digital marketing is broad and it has a lot of subcategories on there. And Mav have mentioned some of them: content creation, social media management, and the likes. So it's now left for you to decide which one under digital marketing am I going for, which would work for me. And the interesting part about digital marketing is that it has different categories that you might just fall in love with and want to work with. Especially, let's go with content creation. Most people are creating content and it's something they do effortlessly, so they can just create a niche for them. And no matter the skill you pick in digital marketing, your salary, your pay home is very good. So it's something you can consider. And if you're good at multitasking, you can manage probably two or three remote jobs. But if you can't, please stick to one. Let me leave it at that. Thank you, Mav.
All right. So that's a good one. Let's move on to the next one here: business analysis. All right. So I remember we mentioned data analysis as well, especially the role itself, data analyst, being a data analyst. Now, this is the point where we talk about business analyst, right? Yes, business analysis, but the title of that role is business analyst. Now, if you're a business analyst, what you're basically doing is you are sitting in a position where you bridge the gap between the technology and the business, right? So you basically do things like requirement gathering. You're conducting some testing or some studies, gathering information, and of course defining the scope of projects, right? So yes, you're going to find yourself working with product owners or yeah, product managers, right? And you will also find yourself working with engineering leads, right? Mostly the leads, not the. I mean, you have to stay high level, right? Um, so let's assume a company is adopting a new technology, right? A new technology, and they are looking at building a new product, with that technology. Now, your job as a business analyst is to, identify how you can leverage this new technology and, ensure that even though it works for the technology bit, it does not affect, the business bit. Okay, so it should also work fine for the business. Else, you might end up having a good technology that destroys your business model, right? So you're in the position to make those vital decisions, right? You gather those information by doing some research, conducting interviews, performing surveys, right? Creating documents and trying to understand the current state of the business and the business goals, and then identify how you can leverage that new technology to move your business from the current state to a target state, right? While also maintaining the business goal in mind. Okay. Yeah. So you are in a position to identify the business needs, right? You're in a position to develop and evaluate, the solutions. You are not going to write code. You're not going to build, right? You evaluate those solutions. You develop those documents. So you are close to being an architect, although you are not, right? You're close. You're close because you're also doing some, research that an architect would do, a software architect or a solutions architect or an enterprise architect, right? But you are mostly doing the communication, evaluating, what you have on ground and where you're going to, and making sure it aligns with it aligns with the business values and aligns with the values that your customers are also expecting, right? So under business analysis, we have different types. Um, we have those that are focused on, like data. We have those that are focused on the enterprise as a whole. We call them enterprise analysts. Yeah. We have the data analysts, right? Yeah. So you see, the data analyst also falls under, business analyst, but business analyst can be like, it's that broad, is that broad, role, that area, because it does not cover only data, right? So as a business analyst, it covers both, probably talking about data, doing some alignment with the financial units, doing some alignment with the enterprise architects, or some other members of the business team, or even the sales department, right? You're going to be touching a lot of areas because now you're covering the business as a whole, not a single unit. Okay. Um, it's a good role. It's a nice role, high paying role as well, because you get to do a lot of things around decision making. Any role that is around decision making is definitely, highly valued. Okay, so yeah, Amaka, do you want to add to that before I move on to the next? Okay, so I also realized that
No, no, no.
yeah, okay. I also realized that the document I exported did not even contain every single one. I was trying to, okay, so I think this is probably, we still have, okay, we still have two, but let's just take this one. So this is a cloud computing specialist. Now, yes, if you have worked with, if you have done cloud computing before, you might also argue that, yes, you need some, basic coding skills. Now, it is not a requirement, right? You can actually do cloud computing or cloud computing without, so you must not do cloud engineering, right? So what we're talking about here is cloud computing specialist. Okay, if you're getting into this particular role, what you're basically focusing on is optimizing the infrastructures that they have, which is something you can actually do without coding. Although these days, writing a little bit of cloud code with tools like Terraform might be the recommended approach. But then, as a specialist, trying to work with an organization, the organization would probably have a cloud engineer internally, and you might come in as a consultant, right? And when you come in as a consultant, you are focused on refining and optimizing the cloud architecture, the deployment strategies, looking at the security and the patterns, right, and making recommendations that can make the company save money, right, or that can keep the company protected from attacks. Okay, so this is what you do. You don't necessarily come in to write code. You just come in to manage, optimize, and ensure that things are smoothly laid out. Okay, so that's what you find yourself doing. And we also have artificial intelligence ethics consultants. So these are basically consulting roles, right? Consulting roles is good, right? Well paid, mostly per hour. So your consulting role, you might be earning like, let's say, anything from 20 to 50 or $100, depending on your years of experience and what you're bringing on board, right? So these are good roles. What you're focusing on here is you are focusing on AI ethics, right? Trying to look at how companies that are adopting AI technologies are able to maintain that ethical standard, right? And of course, leverage or use AI in responsible ways. Okay, so in this role, you focus on assessing potential biases. So, for example, if a company is building an AI model, hope this AI model does not, respond better to people, from this region or from this, uh, environment, and hope the AI does not respond poorly or badly to people in a different area or a different region or a different race. Okay, um, yeah. So I mean, that can happen even though it is not intentional. It can happen based on the kind of data that was fed into the AI. So it's your job to identify these things, call out the departments or the people that can make those corrections or adjustments so that you don't end up having models that would eventually hurt the users, right, with the response or the feedback that the users get from your AI tool. Okay, so yes, this is a wonderful role as well. Although this is not something you might find very popular around here, but it's something to also consider. There are some roles that I wanted to mention. They are not here. I think it was an export error, right? It was an export error. But basically, some of those roles that I wanted to mention that are not here, we're looking at roles like content marketing, which of course it was supposed to come in after digital marketing. It's not here. Graphic designer, yes, that's also a tech role. Okay, it depends on how you choose to take it. Take your graphic design to the next level. Don't just leverage on the basics, right? Learn to build your skills into doing more advanced things around graphic design. We have roles like IT support, right? Where you get to provide technical support to customers or users of computers or networks or different IT equipments that are probably built by your organization, or even software equipments built by your organization. So um, as uh, as an IT support person, You should be able to have strong troubleshooting skills, communication skills, and of course the ability to explain technical concepts in a way that it makes it easy for non-technical users to even understand. Okay. So yeah, that is one of the roles that you can also look out for. Unfortunately, it's not on this slide. Um, yeah, so we even have recruiters. Recruiters, I mean, that's a wonderful role as well, being in the position to hire technical people because you understand, so as a recruiter, you will then have to understand the roles. Okay. So as a recruiter, you have to understand the roles. Um, your job is to recruit, talents, right? So you definitely need, strong communication skills, interpersonal skills, and of course, sourcing skills, being able to search for, the right talents, in the right place, in the right groups on the internet, right? Knowing how to get to the right talents, and of course, preparing interview, arranging for interviews as well, right? So we have I think I mentioned the others already. Apart from what did I not mention exactly? Okay, so I said UI design, but I mentioned that that was part of it can be UI UX design, it can be just UX or just UI. Okay, so you can start off your career as both, learn about both, understand both, and then after a while you streamline. You try to settle or focus on one. Right? It's up to you. Most people that choose to focus on UI design end up moving into product design, right? Focusing on just design. While most people that focus on the UX end up becoming consultants, specialists, and it's a win-win, very wonderful set of roles. Let me allow Amaka to close this session. We've reached the end of this slide. Um, yeah, so thank you very much. My name is Marv. For those of you that don't know me, um, professionally, I work full time as a senior solutions architect, right, in the bank, and I also do some consulting. I also have a part time role as a principal software engineer, right, and I've been doing this. I've been doing software engineering for more than 13 years now. So just in case you are saying, who is this person? And are we sure he knows what he's talking about? Yes, I've gotten the opportunity to work with, some people in these roles, right? Both the non-technical and the technical, folks, both the guys that code and the guys that don't code. And I can tell you there are different areas that you can fit into. If you take your time, look at these roles, understand, the various activities, what they do on a day-to-day basis, you will definitely find one for yourself. So, and I'm sure if you need further clarifications or you want to get into one of these roles, you can reach out to Amaka, you can reach out to Anita, right, at Better Copper, and they will definitely, do well to guide you through, getting into one of these roles. At least getting into one of this space to start learning. Okay. So thank you very much. You can follow me on Twitter. Do have a wonderful evening. Thank you, Amaka. Uh, yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mav. So yes, guys. So these are the skill sets you have in tech that are non-coding careers that you can come into. Now we have other varying careers, right? So it's now left for you to decide what you want to go in. Now this is just to mention, but a few. We have a lot more, and to say this, for non-coding careers, right? We have careers, tech careers that resonate with your passions. So that way it's easy for you to like do what you have to do and get into the tech space. So now you know that it's not just coding we have. So to wrap this up, thank you for joining this session. We have crash courses on our platform. The name is Better Copper. Better Copper is an edtech platform for teaching digital skills and crash courses that help you upskill yourself and relearn. You can follow us on social media on all our social media handles, Better Copper _ng, and kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have currently have a lot of current courses, and we're launching our micro degree courses. So that's our cohort for this year. So you can go to the website bettercopper.com and check us out. I think that being said, if you have any questions, if you can please visit, join our Better Copper group or our Discord channel. Drop your questions, and one of our moderators will pick it up. Yeah, someone is asking if you can get the slide. Surely you will get the slide. It will be sent via mail, and it will also be dropped on our different handles. That's both the WhatsApp community and the Discord community. That being said, thank you so much for joining this session. Have a lovely time. Bye. Good night.